Okay, so last time we had defined the expectation of discrete random variable, and which is the following. So you have the PMF P, and then the expectation is simply the sum over x px. And as I told you, this is always going to be a discrete sum. It's not going to be some continuous thing. So this is all, at least in principle, well defined. Okay, so and I did this simple example of roll of a fair die, and in this case, the expectation is exactly halfway between these six numbers because it's exactly the average. Right? So it's 3.5. And of course, as I said, this is not something that you will see when you throw a die. So it's just, it's not something you expect. In that case, the word, in that sense, the word is kind of bit misleading. Okay, but you understand what it means. Okay, so let me do one more example. So suppose x is a Bernoulli P random variable. So what does that mean? I had defined this earlier. So Bernoulli P means x takes values 0 and 1 with probabilities p and 1 minus p respectively. Right? So then okay, let me remind you. So x lives in 0, 1. Right? So and this has probabilities p, 1 minus p and respectively. Okay. Okay, so what's its expectation? Then, therefore, expectation of x is what? So you have to take sum over x times px. So it's 0 times 1 minus p plus 1 times p, and that's p. This goes away. So this is a general theme. I mean, general. Observation that will come to again and again. So if you have a Bernoulli P random variable, its expectation is the probability of success. Okay, so remember I had said that Bernoulli random variables can be thought in terms of success failure, with P the probability of success. So the expectation is precisely the probability of success. Okay, this is kind of used very, very often. So I mean, but it's trivial to derive, but it's okay. But it's something that one uses. Okay, one last example. So remember I had given you an example of an infinite discrete random variable. So I had, so suppose, so we had seen this example before. So suppose x has PMF, P of n is 1 by n into n plus 1 for all natural numbers n. Right, so I had given you this constant c here, and I had asked you to find c, and I claimed that c is 1. I hope you did the exercise. Okay, so now, so x lives on the natural numbers, and it has PMF this. Okay, so then what's its expectation? Then expectation of x is sum over n going from 1 to infinity. That's the natural numbers. And for each n, I have, as per this formula, I replaced x by n. X is just a term variable. So n times p of n, which is sum n equals 1 to infinity, n times 1 by n plus 1. So the n cancels. So this is sum n equals 1 to infinity, 1 by n plus 1. And what is this? Can anyone say? What is this sum equal to?
It diverges.
That's right. I don't know who said this, but which diverges? So now you see something very funny. This expectation is in some sense the average. But in some cases like this, even the average diverges. Okay? So such examples are there in probability, and they're not like pathological examples. They do occur, and so you have to be careful in talking about expectations. So when I said this sum, I mean this sum when it exists. Okay, I didn't want to say when it exists because I didn't want to spoil the suspense of an example like this, but it's not guaranteed that such a sum will exist. Okay. Are there any questions about this point? This is an important point. I mean, even something very simple like the simplest thing possible of a random variable, which is the expectation, need not exist. Okay. Of course, if things are finite, there's no problem.
So,
Yes.
what is the real meaning of that this expectation value didn't exist? I mean, what is the intuition behind that?
Yeah, so the intuition is that roughly it's saying that you will get, so if you do take a large sample, I mean you take a large number of samples from this distribution, you will find some very large outliers.
Is it like we cannot predict the expectation after a large number of experiments?
No, yeah, it does not exist. I mean, it will keep growing. So if you take 1,000 samples and take their average, and then you take 1,000,000 samples and take their average, it will keep growing. So it will not converge. That's what it is.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So, so yeah, it takes some time to wrap your head around such things. Okay, so even such things can happen. We will see for many standard distributions, we will calculate their expectation in a few weeks. Okay, that's good. So all this was about discrete random variables. What do you do with continuous random variables? So of course, I mean, we want to make sense of expectation even for a continuous random variable. So now let's come back to continuous random variables. So I want to make sense of this. So what does it mean? So the analogy, I mean, I don't have to in principle give you any motivation. I can just say blah, here's the formula blah. But I think it's good to have an idea of why things go. So suppose why things have the formula that they have. So suppose x is now a continuous random variable with the density or PDF small f as usual. Okay, so what does it mean? So it means now I'm going to argue like your high school physics problems. So that means if I have some value x, then I have some interval dx. How do I write this? So this is dx at x, and I have this value. So I'm plotting f, let's say, and I have this. It does not have to be constant. So okay, it could be something like this. Okay, let me not make it. Okay. So so in this interval dx around x, I mean, as we argued before, the probability of seeing an interval dx around x, I had said epsilon, but okay, as I said, I'm going to argue physics in a physics way, is roughly, I'll not put equals because that wouldn't be correct, is roughly fx dx. Right? So it's f of x is this value, and this is the rectangle area of the rectangle around the f of x. And so now so now you replace px by fx dx, right? And so the expectation should have and replace the sum by an integral. That's the kind of thing you do. So that tells you what the formula is going to be. So by analogy, if you like, if you know what the Riemann integral is, so you should know. So by analogy with the Riemann integral, as you must have seen in your 101 class, we have the following definition. The expectation. Now we can't use the word like mean. One simply doesn't do such things. Of a continuous random variable x with density f is given by, we'll use the same notation. Expectation of x is the integral from minus infinity to infinity x fx dx whenever it exists. Now I'll say it explicitly because this is now an improper integral and there's no a priori guarantee of anything. Maybe I don't underline it, but you see what I mean. Right? So this integral, as you might expect, might not exist, and that is correct. There are many examples. Okay. Any questions? So the analogy is clear, right? I mean, this is the kind of calculation one does. So you take a small width of dx, and you, instead of sum, you replace by an integral, and so you get this kind of form. Okay. Well, let's see that it makes sense. So recall the uniform random. Was this in the last class? Yes, I think this was in the last class. Yes, here it is. Here's the example I did. So unif AB. So let's do uniform AB. So let X be distributed. X be a uniform AB random variable. A is this. Okay, so let's look at this. So roughly we are saying that any of the values here are equally likely, whatever that means, right? I said we have to be careful because the probability of any given value is 0. But we have a rough intuition for what this means. So without any thinking, a random way, what would you expect the expectation? That's a overuse of the word. But what do you think the expectation of a uniform AB random variable would be? No points for a wrong guess or a right guess even. What do you think it should be? I mean, what does your intuition tell you? Yes, Ritvik? No. Yes.
So it would be the mean of A and B.
What?
So it would be the mean of A and B.
Yes. So if there is any justice in this world, when we do this when we use this formula, we should get the mean of it. I mean, that's, if you get something else, I mean, that would be bizarre. So let's see what this is. So we have the formula for f of x is 1 by b minus a between a and b and 0 otherwise. So expectation of x is integral minus infinity to infinity x of x dx. But fx is 0 outside a and b. So I have x times 1 by b minus a dx. And so 1 by b minus a is just a constant. So I have integral x dx. I don't know how you do this. So you want to evaluate x squared by 2, which is the indefinite integral between a and b. And so you have 1 by b minus a, b squared minus a squared by 2. And b squared minus a squared is divisible by b minus a. You need b. Let me write it. Say a plus b. which is exactly what you guessed, right? So it's the midpoint. As expected. Okay. So things work nicely, and yeah, so all is well, and so now you know, now I can give you any continuous random variable, and I can ask you to compute its expectation, and again, in some cases it might not exist. So let me show you an example where it does not exist. So the Cauchy distribution this is a new distribution. There'll be many named distributions. This is one of the many. So the Cauchy distribution is has density or PDF f of x equal to 1 by pi 1 by 1 plus x squared, and here x lives in all the entire real life. Okay, maybe I can show you how this looks like. Okay, so I didn't think about this earlier, but let me open Mathematica. Oh, by the way, someone asked how you can use Mathematica. So the SERC has a license. So this is paid software. So the SERC has a license for this for a certain number of users, and if you want to play with it, you can go to the SERC website. So maybe I'll show you where the SERC website is. It's SERC. So this is the SERC website, Supercomputer Education Research Center, and if you go to software, you'll see it has Mathematica. Okay, but you need to request. Okay, so let me plot the Cauchy distribution. So plot 1 by 1 plus x squared, let's say minus 100 to 100. I mean, of course, it's going to look symmetric. Okay, so we'll do minus 10 to 10. Maybe you see the peak. So you see it now. So I mean, this looks like it's going to 0, but that's because this is not the y-axis. Sorry, this is not the x-axis. Anyway, okay, so let's check that the integral of this function. Well, let's check that it's equal to pi. I suppose this is the kind of thing you have seen already. This is a tan inverse integral, so it works. Okay, this is an improper integral, but it does converge. Okay, you need it to converge for the density to be valid. But now let's compute the expectation. So therefore, the expectation of x is integral minus infinity to infinity. I can take the 1 by pi outside. This is x by 1 plus x squared dx. And what is this equal to? So
0.
Good. I'm glad someone said that. Who said that?
Guru.
Guru. Okay, very good. Yes. So it's very tempting to say that the answer is 0 because this is an odd function. So if you replace x by minus x, then you get the negative of this, and therefore this integral should be. But that argument does not work because the integral. So let me good. So let me do the integral of this x of this from minus infinity to infinity, and you see that it does not converge. Even Mathematica knows it does not converge, and the reason is that even half of the integral does not converge. Okay, so when you take limits, you are supposed to take the limit of n or whatever. Let's say you call this integral from a to b minus a to b, and you want to take a and b to infinity separately. You should not couple the two limits. Okay, then you get something of the form infinity minus infinity, which is not good. Okay, so this divergence. This you might or you should have seen in your 101 course, but you might have forgotten. Okay, so this expectation does not exist. Okay. All right. Okay, good. Any questions now? Okay, so let me give you an exercise. Okay, maybe I'll do that later. Maybe I'll give that now. Okay. So, all right. So now you see what the expectation is for both the discrete and continuous, and I gave a few examples of both cases. So now we want to move to something a little more general. So mathematicians love functions. So you want to ask, suppose suppose x is a random variable, okay, on some sample space. It's a random variable, okay, and g g is a function from R to R, okay, right? So it's any old function. Then g of x is now a function from R to R, from S to R, sorry, and can be thought of as another random variable. Right? I mean, you got it from x, but now this has its own independent life. For any because x is a random variable, it's well defined on events, and therefore g of x is also well defined on events, no problem. And so now this is another random variable, and if if x is discrete, or continuous, then so is g of x, and has a PMF or a PDF. Right? I mean, I mean, so anything that you could ask about x, now you could ask about g of x. So we could ask the same questions, or we could compute the same quantities for g of x as we did for x. In particular, we can talk about the expectation. Okay? So I have now a function of a random variable, and I can talk about its expectation. Right? So let me give you an example of this. Right? How does one go about doing this? So I'll give a discrete and a continuous example. So discrete. So let x have PMF. Let x, okay, so let x have PMF. E. P of 0. So x lives on 0, 1, 2. So P of 0 is 0.2, say. P of 1 is 0.5. And P of 2 is 0.3. Right? Okay, so this is some example. So let's calculate expectation of x. Is 0 times 0.2 plus 1 times 0.5 plus 2 times 0.3. Oops. So that's 0.5 plus 0.6, which is 1.1. Okay, so that's easy enough. Now I take a function. Okay, so I take some simple function. Let's say y equal to x squared. Okay. Right. This is a function of x. So it's another random variable. So let us ask the basic questions about y, and I want you to answer. What is the range of y? So where does y live in?
So 0, 1 and 4.
That's correct. So y lives in, because x takes value 0, 1 and 2, x squared takes values 0 squared, which is 0, 1 squared, which is 1, and 2 squared, which is 4. Right? These are the values that that y lives in. Okay. And so now I want to okay. So this is the first step. We want to know, we have the values, but so the next step is to find the PMF. Okay, so here now, just to be safe, I'm going to write P sub x for the PMF of x. Okay, so the first step was to calculate where the range of y. Now we want to calculate the PMF of y. The PMF of y is given by what? Py, let's say, and what are its values? So what is Py? So tell me the values of all these guys.
So Py of 0 would be 0.2.
0.2.
Py of 1 would be 0.5.
Yes.
And Py of 4 would be 0.3.
Right? Yes, so that's exactly right. So it's correct. And here there is no big deal, because this function is bijective in this range. But suppose I had taken instead of 2, I had taken -1. Then y will have only two values. Right? So actually, why don't we do that? Let me modify this example. Okay, so I have -1 here. So I have 0.5 minus 0.6. So that's -0.1. Okay. And now this is -1 squared, which is also 1. So now.
Sir.
Yes.
So the expectation will be 0.2, not -0.1.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. Because that was a 2 earlier. Sorry. Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anjali. Okay. So now you see the slight issue, and maybe now you can tell me what's going to happen. So so both 1 squared and -1 squared are 1, and so y has range only 0 and 1. Right? Now tell me what the PMF is. Is it still true that Py of 0 is 0.2?
Yes, sir. Py of 0 is 0.2. Py of 1 is 0.8.
Correct. Yes, that's right, Sarthak. So here you have to sum all the contributions coming to a particular value. So it's 0.5 plus 0.3 because both of them, for x equal to 1 and x equal to minus 1, x squared is 1. So y is 1. So y equal to 1 can occur from both these cases. So we have to sum these two and we get 0.8. Okay. So that's how such things work. Okay. And just to warn you, expectation, so what we have concluded is that expectation of x squared is 0.8, which is not equal to 0.4, 0.04, which is the expectation of x whole squared. So you take the square root of 0.2, you get 0.04, and this is certainly not equal to 0.8. Okay? So you don't just blindly exchange the square in the bracket. Okay. Okay, so this is one example of such a calculation, of such a function. Let's now do a continuous example. This is more tricky and more interesting somehow. Okay, so let's take our standard example. So let x be uniform 0, 1 distributed. And so as we just calculated a few minutes ago, expectation of x is a half. It's the average of 0 and 1. And again, let me take y equal to x squared. Okay, so our first question is, so when you have a random variable, the first thing you want to do is to ask for its range. So where does y live in?
So it lives in 0 to 1.
That's right. It again lives in 0 to 1 because, as you know, for a number between 0 and 1, its square is also, it's a x squared is a bijective function from 0, 1 to its. Again, y equal to x squared, and y belongs to, let's say close 0. Doesn't really matter whether I take close 0. But now what do I do? I mean, now this seems a bit problematic. So remember that our formula for the expectation of a continuous random variable is integral x fx dx. So you have to tell me what the density is. Without that, I'm stuck. Right? So how do I calculate the density? Recall that the PDF of x, again I'll put subscripts, is f sub x of x. This is 1 by b minus a, where b is 1, a is 0, so it's just 1 if x belongs to 0, 1 and is 0 otherwise. Okay, so now what do you want me to do? Do you want me to square these numbers? I mean, that doesn't make sense. I mean, because then I would get the same thing. And clearly these two are different. Right? If you want, I can.
So it would be the same.
Who said that? No, so that's wrong. If it was the same, then we would, then life would become way too easy. So we have to find the first principles way of calculating this. So we want to find, so to calculate expectation of y, we need to find f sub y of x. Okay. Otherwise, we don't know how to do. So, but we do have a way to go about this, and let me show you how one would go about this. So we start by finding its CDF, capital F. Okay, so since y lives in 0, 1, fy of x is 0 if x is less than 0 and is 1 if x is greater than 1. Right? So the only interesting region for 0, 1 is, for y is 0. Okay, so let a belong to 0, 1. Okay. So let's try to calculate fy of a. So then fy of a is by definition now the probability of y less than or equal to a. Right? This is what it means to be a CDF. Okay. But now we know what y is. So this is x squared. So this is the probability that x squared is less than or equal to a. Right? I just plugged in. But we know x is positive. So then x squared being less than or equal to a is the same as the probability of x being less than or equal to square root of a. Everybody agrees with this? Since x is positive or non-negative. And now, what is this? Again, by definition, this is fx of square root of a. Right? But what is fx? We have already calculated this. So the PDF is this, the CDF is this. And now so there's a bit of confusion of labels. So now my x is a, my a is 0 and my b is 1. So I'll get a minus 0 divided by 1 minus 0. So it's just, square root of a minus 0 divided by 1 minus 0. So it's just square root of a. This is equal to square root. Okay, this is an important calculation. So please understand this very carefully. Please understand each step and ask me if there are any doubts. So this is again for a in 0, 1. Is this clear? Okay, so I'm assuming this is clear. Now I have the CDF. How do I calculate the density from the CDF? We have already discussed this. I have the CDF for a continuous random variable. What do I do to get the density?
We differentiate it.
That's it. So therefore, and this is a nice enough function in this range. Therefore, fy of a is d by dA of fy of a, which is 1 by 2 root a. It's the derivative of square root of a, which is 1 by 2 root a. Okay, because it's a to the half. Okay, so now I have its density. Therefore, expectation of y, which is, so it's the integral minus infinity to infinity of a fy of a dA is just a dummy variable as usual. So it's 0 to 1. The density is 0 outside. Outside 0, 1. So I have a times 1 by 2 root a dA. Sorry, that's horrible. Okay, so which is half integral 0 to 1 square root a dA, and this I assume everybody can do. So this is a to the 3 by 2 divided by 3 by 2 from 0 to 1, and so the 2 cancels over here, so I get 1 by 3, 1 minus 0, and so surprise, surprise, that the expectation of x squared is less than the expectation of x. And why is that? Okay, we can sort of see why this is. X is uniform in 0, 1. Therefore, x squared is going to, but x squared is larger for smaller values within 0, 1. So it's going to give more weight. It should give more weight to smaller numbers less than half, and we can plot this and see. So let me plot. What was the density? It was 1 by 2 square root of a01. This is the density, and so you can see that it's actually has I mean it's diverging at 0, but that's not a problem. It's a distinct singularity. It's an integrable singularity, as they say, and so you can integrate this function, and there is no. Okay, so you do get a finite number, and if you want, we can compare both the CDFs together. So in one case, I'm plotting the CDF 1, and in the other case, I'm plotting square root of a01. Okay. So you see the CDF. So for the uniform, it just jumps to 1, and here it goes slowly to 1. Right. So that's and you see this is a whatever convex function, so it gives more weight. No, okay, let me yes.
So shouldn't the CDF of the uniform function be a straight line?
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's what I was confused. Yes, yeah. So this is larger than. Yeah, it should be A, as I said, because from this formula, when this A is 1 and this B is 0 and this B is 1, I'll get A minus 0 by 1 minus 0, which is A. Right? So it does give more weight to smaller numbers. Okay. All right. Okay. So I hope this example is illuminating, and this is the kind of thing one would like to do, or one would have to do in general. But you see, this is this is a kind of a pain. If you think about how much work we had to do to calculate the expectation of x squared, which is probably the simplest non-trivial function. If we have to do this every single time, life will become very difficult. Fortunately, we have a result that will allow us to simplify our life. So let me explain the next theorem. So suppose G is a function. Notice that we don't really need G to go from R to R. We just need G to go from the range of X to R. So when we did G of X, for example, I could have taken square root of X in this uniform example, right? I could have taken Y to be the square root of X. That's completely allowed. I could not take Y to be square root of X here because of this minus. Right? But just for simplicity, I'm making a more general assumption, but it works naturally. So I'll do two cases. So I'll let X be a variable. So A, if X is discrete with PMFP, then expectation of G of X is the sum over all X such that P of X is positive. g of x, p of x. And b, if x is continuous with density or PDF f, then expectation is, so you can see the analogy, expectation of g of x is going to be the integral. Okay, if I don't write the limits, then you assume that it's minus infinity. Gx fx. Or if you want gx is confusing, you put a gu f u t. Okay, now you can see the analogy with the standard expectation. If g of x is the identity function, so remark, if g of x is x, it's the identity function, not the constant function, the function which takes x to itself, then we get the usual formulas. Expectation of x. So let me go back here and draw your attention to this. You might not have noticed it, but this x is the same as this x, right? For the discrete case, and in the continuous case, as we just did earlier today, this x over here is this x. So if I put x squared, I should put x squared, and whatever I put else otherwise. Okay. So let me prove this. So the discrete case is kind of easy. Proof. So let y equal to gx. Okay. So then, by definition, expectation of y is the sum over all y, such that py of y is positive, y times py of y, right? This is just the definition, and now I'll just rewrite the sum over y such that py of y is positive, y times probability of y equal to y, small y, and therefore this is now the sum over x such that px of x is positive of y, which is g of x, small x, and probability of y equal to g of x, right? But probability of y equal to g of x is the same as probability of x equal to x, and this is px. Okay, so I mean, you might get the same term, you might get the same g for several values of x, but that's okay, it'll just come again and again. Okay, so I'll repeat the examples we did earlier using this theorem to show you how this works. So the first case is just g, so this is the RHS, right? So it's just gx px. Okay, so the trick was to change from the label y, which is the range, to the domain, and that's all. The continuous part is maybe a little more interesting, and it's yes.
So can you please explain how probability of y equal to g of x is the same as probability of x equal to x?
So, I mean, this is for every given, okay, so maybe this is, okay, so here there is a slight subtlety. You're right. So this is, okay, so let's go back to our example here. Okay, so what's the probability that y equal to 0? This is the same as we want to range over all x in 0, 1, minus 1 whose squared is 0 and there is only 1. What is the probability that x squared is 1? We have to range over all of these guys, all 0, 1 and minus 1 whose squared is 1. But now there are two values, right? So, so I'm being a little sloppy here. So there is a double sum. So okay, so yes, let me go over this a little carefully. So if x1 to xk are such that g of x1 through g of xk are all equal to g of x, which is y, right? This y, then we get a contribution sigma I equal to 1 to k g of xi times probability of x equal to xi for this is equal to y probability of y equal to y. Right, you agree? Because for each value of y, I have several different x's, and so y equal to y, capital Y equals small y, means capital X has to be one of these x1 to xk. Is that clear? And
Yes,
for all of these, the value is g of x. I mean, this is by construction, right?
Yes.
And therefore, now I can combine the sums. So instead of going over all of these guys, I mean, all of which have value g of x, we can combine these two sums. So what is it saying? That for each value of x, I'm getting g of that value, right? Over here. So I'm getting the sum over x such that px of x is positive, and I'm getting gx px. So I'm in effect combining sums, and I'm using the fact that all of these have the same resulting value of y. Okay, so that's I mean, that's essentially the strategy that one followed in that example. Okay, should I stop now? Okay, maybe I will do, let's revisit the above example, and I will prove part B starting in the next class. Since I promised to let you off early, let me just finish the thread of ideas here. So revisit example. So x lived in 0 plus minus 1. And we had the PMF, P of 0 equals 0.2, P of 1 equals 0.5, and P of minus 1 equals 0.3. And now I claim now you don't have to do any of this jugglery. Well, what is the so y was x squared? We don't have to do any more jugglery. we just directly do evaluate this sum and we don't think about it. So this is g of x. So then expectation of y, what is this going to be? So I just evaluate g at all these values, multiply by b. So I get 0 squared times 0.2 plus 1 squared times 0.5 plus minus 1 squared times 0.3. So this doesn't contribute. So I have 0.5 plus 0.3. Okay, and that would have been, somehow did I forget to do the expectation here? No, I did. Expectation x squared was 0.8. Right? So we get the exact same answer just by evaluating this sum in a, in the obvious way. We don't think about range, blah blah, this that. We just evaluate this sum and we get the same answer. That makes our life, this theorem makes our life quite easy when it comes to evaluating functions of random variables. Okay. Any questions? I'll stop now. I'll prove part B of this theorem at the beginning of next class. And remember that there's a quiz tomorrow. And another thing, after discussion with the TAs, we have noticed that some of you don't write the answer, don't give any calculations. You just write the answer pat. And we are not going to give marks for that, because especially in this online mode, we don't know who is copying or what. I mean, you could have, for example, seen the answer from someone else or whatever, or lifted it from the internet. So we want to see calculations. So please write your calculations. We want to give partial marks. Okay.
So
yes.
While you are saying calculation, like in the second quiz, it was very less time and it is not possible to write large and large explanation for every step. So is that fine?
Yeah. No, we want to see the steps. So our philosophy or my philosophy is that I want to give marks. So please help me give you marks. Don't have to write long essays for every equality, but if you write something, you give a few words of explanation. You can just say by something. Just say something. Help me give you marks. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So don't just write the final answer pat, because then I cannot, if we do not see any flow of ideas, we cannot give you marks. Okay, we want to give partial marks, so please help us give you partial marks by writing some words of explanation. Okay, you don't have to write an essay. I'm not asking you to be verbose, but please write as much. Write something so that we know that you are on the right track. And even if you are wrong, we can give you some partial marks. Okay? All right.